Hello again YouTube, Pan here, and instead of having a look in the purse, this time I've got an unboxing video for you. As a bit of background, a friend of mine recently spent some time in the States, and whilst they're going over there I kind of thought, well, I haven't really got any US coins, so I asked them if they could, whilst they're over there, possibly take, kind of a couple of hours and nip to a precious metals dealer and pick me up some bits and bobs. So I gave them a budget of about $100. They haven't spent it all, which surprised me a little bit, but they did pick up a few things, and they've sent them through to me in this parcel here. Now what's going to be particularly interesting is that I don't actually know what they've got me, so whilst I can take a good stab, this is going to be a little bit of a surprise one. So, what's in the parcel? Oh wow. Well, first up, there's a California Republic t-shirt here, which is really quite cool. So thank you, friend, if you're watching. That's unexpected and really awesome of you. Incidentally, if anybody here is a fan of 99% Invisible, the California Republic is a really good example of a very bad flag. It's a little bit dull to look at. It's not particularly well designed. It has a very, very detail-heavy thing at its centre, which isn't particularly obvious from a distance, and actually includes text on it, which is kind of a no-no. But, hey, California people, you be crazy. So, awesome. Well, I'm going to very much enjoy adding that to my collection. So we have the actual receipt there, and now we're down to the slightly suspiciously small looking parcel. Here we are. It's from Stacks Rare Coins, New York, New York. Now bear with me a second, I'm going to pop these out left flips and we'll have a closer look. So what we have here is not, as I first suspected, a trio of silver eagles or Liberty dollars, but in fact 3 different examples of the eponymous Morgan dollar. So a little bit of background. In 1873, there was a new coinage act in the US. And basically one of the main things that this act did was, first of all, it technically abolished the previous seated Liberty dollar. But also what it did was it abolished a previous existing right to have silver struck into coinage. So the way this would work would be that if you had some silver, say that you had mined or had, obtained through one means or another, you could take it to the American Mint and they would be obliged to turn it into coins for you. Because the US at the time was technically on a bimetallic system. So everyone knows about the gold standard, but actually, prior to 1873, the US had actually been on a gold and silver standard. And what this meant was that actually, at the times when silver wasn't worth very much or the spot price was relatively low, going and taking your silver and having it cast into dollars was a way of making a quick profit. And anybody who's seen kind of the variations of gold and silver ratios will obviously point out that having a set ratio of what gold and silver is meant to be is probably kind of tricky. Anyway, so these are what came about after that act, and these were named Morgan dollars after the artist who designed the bust on the obverse, George T. Morgan. George T. Morgan previously worked at the Royal Mint. He was, in fact, initially born in Birmingham, so he was a Brummie from the Black Country. Came very highly recommended, came over and did his designs for the Liberty Head based upon a school teacher. And these started being minted in the late 1870s, I think. So anyway, this would be a relatively early one. So first of all, having a look at these coins in general. So in common with US dollar coins all over, first of all, it has, $1, United States of America, in God They Trust. And then we have this, kind of classic American motif of an eagle clutching an olive branch and a bunch of arrows. Moving over to the other side, obviously we have the year for this one, 1881. We then also have up at the top the Latin inscription E pluribus unum, from many, one. And we have some stars. How many stars do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Obviously representing the original 13 colonies that revolted to become the United States of America. So, this is coin number 1. Now, coin number 2, you'll notice, looks a lot more beaten up. It's a lot more toned, it's a lot more weathered. But flipping it over, it's also from 1881. Which is a little bit bewildering, because if you put them side by side, you would not say to yourself, these two coins were made at the same time, in the same way. This one looks far more like kind of a modern bullion coin, whereas this looks much more like one of the silver crowns that I have in my collection. And there is actually an explanation for this. Basically, in the 20th century, at one point the American Mint discovered that they had essentially a shedload of uncirculated Morgan dollars just basically sitting in a vault somewhere. So they started releasing them into circulation, and people would buy them, as many as they could get hold of, and essentially they were buying them at the rate of $1 for $1. And what this meant was that lots and lots of particular issues and years that had been thought to be very, very rare suddenly became much, much more readily available. And I don't have definite proof, but that is my current working theory for why these coins look so very, very different. One other important difference I should point out would be that these were made in different places. So the demand for silver dollar coins meant that they couldn't make them all in one place. They tried, but they were like, no, we need some help with this. So if you look at just between the D and the O above it there, you see there's a little O. That is a mint mark to show that this one was struck in New Orleans. Whereas this one, again, sorry, just gorgeous, gorgeous toning on this one. Like, this is a coin that has really aged nicely. And if we zoom in, if you see between the D and the O, there is an S, which means that this coin here was struck in San Francisco. Moving on to coin number 3, again this one looks to be in very, very good nick, so I would not be surprised if again this was one that wound up sitting untouched in a box for half a century. And again, if we zoom in on the mint mark, again we have a New Orleans coin here. And this one was from 1901, so about 20 years later. So the United States coinage is kind of interesting from my perspective as a British citizen, because we're used to putting, our reigning monarch on our obverse, whereas Americans have a lot more variety. So yes, they do occasionally put presidents on, typically not a living one. So so there's like the Kennedy $half, and there's various presidents all over their paper money. But then also they have things like these depictions of a sort of mythical figure, I guess, a personification of an idea. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, it's just kind of curious. I mean, on one level, I suppose it gives them a lot more, or gives Americans much more freedom in what they could potentially put on their coins. There's a lot more variety that they could go with. Unfortunately, they don't. In fact, actually, US coinage is somewhat notorious for being even more conservative in its design and its reluctance to change even than UK coinage is. So you see these coins minted 20 years apart, and there is no change. There is no difference at all in design. I mean, okay, these were circulating coins, so maybe that's a little bit unfair. That's like saying, a £2001 coin looks an awful lot like a 1989 pound coin. Okay, fair enough. So yes, so some very nice, very, very shiny examples there. And one just deliciously worn and weathered example of really one of the great classics of American coinage. Incidentally, I did have a quick look at the mintage figures for these, and how can I put it? There are millions of them. So I'm not sure that these are going to kind of have any kind of tremendously great premium in the future, but they're very, very solid, very nice little coins. At 900 silver, so coin silver, very much like the standard for the time. And as with so many of these coins, the crowns, the bolivar, the British trade dollar, very, very strongly tied to the old pieces of 8, the Spanish dollar, the 8 reales, the pieces of 8. It just goes to show kind of how long a reach and how much of an influence such coins can have. The Morgan dollar, made by a Brummie, based on a school teacher, and hidden in a vault for half a century. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Bye for now.